You can see here run method is assigned with a delegate to run that, please, automatically. So run is a method which will run after your on start is. Okay. So during execution, if you want to execute any code and all, and you want to take some direct requests and all, you can also use run, please. On start is basically like a startup task, and then you will put all your code in your run, and this run is calling run async internally, and this is my run async. Okay, and what is this small logic? All of you can see here, while not cancellation token dot is cancellation requested, it just writes working, and then it delays for 1 second and again keeps on running this while loop and starts printing working. Just to give you an idea how a worker role runs, this default code is given to us, right? So remember 3 methods. One is on start, one is on stop, and third one is run. Run, of course, calls run async, please. All right. So as a developer, when we are working with worker role, what I must ensure is write some on start task and then write some listening or queue process inside my run process, please. Of course, when we run this, you will see that. All right. Yeah. But I told you, first get completely clear picture of these files, all of you. In your web role, you really need not deal with webrole.cs lot. Nothing is there in web role. But in worker role, this is only everything, please. This is only everything. Nothing else is there in worker role. And both these web roles and worker roles are added as a reference. You can see here, are added as a reference to this cloud service project. Any settings that you want to do for a worker role or a web role, you must do those settings in these 2 roles, please, all of you. Can you see now? I want to show that settings now one by one. Just go to your, okay, first let us start this, all of you. Let us start this and see how it is running and all that. Okay. Let me just try to change my view. Okay, all of you have a look at this. I can have a clean view this way. Okay. Hope you are able to see me. Let's run this and have a good look at this now. First time it might take a couple of, at least a minute to really compile and start the emulator and then run. So what is the process as that is running, which I want to tell you. The process is now we are trying to, start Azure emulator in our local system, number 1. Second, create one instance for web role and create one instance for worker role, and worker role starts separately and web role will start separately. Okay, that's what is going to happen, and that's what we will see now, please. Yeah, and web role, because it's UI based, it is a website, it is going to come as a front end for you. The web role will come as a front end for you, whereas a worker role will not come. So let's try to see that now. Yeah, you can see now my emulator started, local emulator, all of you. and in this emulator my web role and worker role will go and get deployed. You can always see your Azure storage emulator in the toolbox, and you can be careful. You can say show compute emulator, and right now on the screen you can see that I have got localhost :28437. This is running in Azure emulator in my local PC, please. I said in Azure emulator in my local PC, please. Okay. As that gets loaded, we can also have a look at the compute emulator. Okay, yeah, see, anyhow that came now. This is my MVC application. Okay, and now show compute emulator. Click on this. When I say show me that, yes, now you can see here, this is my UI where one instance is running. I'm a little slow, you can clearly see now, and this is my the background worker role. And what is that you can see in worker role? Yeah, total how many instances? 2 instances. Can you see that? 2 virtual machines are running now. And if you click on this 0, can you see this working, that thought that is going on here? It completely says I'm working. For every 1 second delay, it starts giving me it's working and continuously processing that. Okay, it just starts saying working and all that. This is what the worker role we have done. So you can always see this worker role, okay, where it is there and all with these properties like this. Whereas a web role is just, now these roles are not related, they are running separately. How we are going to build a worker role and make a web role communicate with that, that's very, very important. Okay, once you know this, we can do that. Now I am just closing this. I'll close this and come back to my project, and I want to show you some more things now. I want to go to this bill SVC, double click on this, double click on these roles, all of you. And now I want to show you this screen now. Can you see here? How many instances you want to run for your worker role? Everybody, here is the instance count that you are going to specify. If you say instance count is more than 1, let's say 2, okay, then please make sure, yeah, this is a query that somebody asked, right? When you are using more than 1 instance count locally, you must switch to full emulator. Now you might get confused, what is this full emulator and express emulator? Just to keep the size low, by default in your local PC, express emulator will run actually, okay? So if you are going and you are testing your personal PC with more than 1 instance, then you must write Azure emulator, you must change Azure emulator to full emulator, otherwise you cannot run that instance. Right, so keep that in your mind, all of you. To test multiple instances, switch to the full emulator in your cloud service properties, where I will show you that. Then you also have VM size here. Can you see this VM sizes? Small, medium, large, extra large, A series, D series, all this. Probably we are in a much higher series than this today, but these are some of the servers. You must see what is this A1, A2, A3. What is this A1, A2, A3 is, I don't know, am I audible to you? No. Am I audible to you now? Okay, that's fine. So what is that, A1, A2, A3, all that is? These are servers, please. If you go to Azure, documentation and all, you can see what are A series servers, what are D1 series servers, all that. Alright? So if you are looking for a higher end, you can go for large or extra large like this. Okay, you can always learn what is that VM size by just clicking. Right now, we will stick to small and instance count to 2. Alright? Next, do you want to go for diagnostics? Then click on, yeah, this is again a good one. See here, just click on configure and you can see now, I told you diagnostics I will show in cloud services. You see here, select a diagnostics configuration, only errors or complete information, application logs, Windows event logs, performance counters, infrastructure logs, log directories, all these are there for us, please. That means what? You can have a complete log management for your cloud services, which will help you to track what's happening in your log, please. Alright? It will help us, okay, what is happening in my cloud service? You can really read that logs and then try to make it more useful. Alright? Now, I changed instance count to 2. I will just save this, but as I told you, I cannot run my project with instance count 2 in Express Emulator, which I have by default. So what I need to do, go to my project now, alright, right click on my project. Which project, please? The cloud service project. Right click on this and go to properties. Properties here, and as part of properties, if I am not wrong, go to web, and here you specify use full emulator. I can come back again if you have not noticed, everybody. Okay, just see, I am going to Azure project, not web role, worker role. I am going to Azure project, right click, properties, go to web, use full emulator and then save this. Right. See, in cloud services, the first step is to understand two things. One is role entry point class, which I showed you in the beginning of the discussion. And the other one is these settings, please. Okay, these settings are also very, very important. So hope you will understand this, and you can see here I changed it to full emulator. Close this. Okay, instance count is 2. Now let's try to run and see what's going to happen now. When I execute now, I want to keep the compute emulator in front of us. Alright, here is my compute emulator. Don't worry about the browser and all that comes, just concentrate on this. Okay, I got some information here. No, it's doing that. Yeah, have a look at this. Here is my emulator started and my services are getting deployed now. As we switched the emulator, okay, it's telling already your emulator is there. I need to stop that express emulator and then start the full emulator. If I say OK, it will do it by itself, that one. Alright, so let me say OK for that. So again, first time this might take a while. So it has stopped that, okay, and let me try if I can get this window again. Yeah, all of you, can you see now what happened? Full emulator got started. Again my bill service and my shop UI, both of them are on. My bill service and my shop UI both are on, okay, but this time if you go to shop UI, I can see 1, but if you go to bill service, I am going to see 2, and totally, can you see now, I am running 3 instances, please. Hope you know the count. 3 instances means, are you clear with the count, please, all of you, or not now? See, I can show you 0 working, 1 working, and here is 0. Awesome, right? Because just with a small text box, you start many instances, please. You really start many instances in Azure. And when you deploy this to Azure, automatically Azure allocates 3 service instances, mind it. When you deploy this to Azure, automatically all 3 will be started, you know. So you can see that, yeah, that's what I wanted to show you. So you can increase this. Now what is the reason that we are increasing? You know, so that we can use this load and do more, better, faster serving to users. Hope you all got that. Settings, I'm back to settings. I just want, now the same setting you will have for your UI also. So you can also tell, hey, what is the instance count here to 2 or anything, and then specify it. Okay, so that's the first screen I wanted to show you. Scale up, down, you know this already, and the instance count also how to do, and then diagnostics how to do. Please don't forget all this. The moment when we want, hey, I want to know what's happening in cloud service, you need diagnostics. All right, going further, little deeper, everybody, in your services, I'm going to next one now, settings, all of you. In settings, I can create one setting which is available to me in my web role or worker role. For example, I want to say add setting and say cloud key and enter one key here, key F00234. What is this cloud key and string key F00234 is something which will be automatically added in our role entry point. So you can read this just like how do you read from web.config, you can read this setting in your program. So please remember, we need in lot of places. And you can specify that, hey, this should be available only to local, or this should be available to cloud or to all configurations. All right. So when I say all configurations, it will be available to local, it will be available to global, everywhere it will be available. All right. Hope all of you are clear. I can create many settings like this, as many as. In a typical real application, probably you will see so many settings that are created, please. So, for example, sometimes I want a connection string, okay. Let's say SQLCN. I'm going to write all the connection string here, okay. Something like, you know, data source equal to dot backslash SQL, whatever, all that. And this SQLCN I am going to use in my program. We will see in our demo, next demo, where we will create something we will consume in worker role. So this is a cloud configuration file, mind it. This is a cloud config file, please. Next. I have endpoints. I think endpoints require more time to discuss. See, endpoint is a URL. I will also discuss this in the next session. More detailed, please. Endpoint is a URL using which your role can be communicated with, please. I repeat, endpoint is a URL through which you can communicate with your role. Okay, you will have three options here, please. One is input endpoint, internal endpoint, and instance input endpoint. Okay, I told you, no, we will talk, it will take time to talk about this. See, basically, do you want your role to be consumed only by your project, or you want your role to be communicated globally, or you want only within your instance to be communicated? That is what these endpoints is, please. Anyhow, when you want a web role to communicate with worker role, then you can specify internal and web role will communicate with worker role, like that. So we will see what these three options are and how best we can use. But right now what I am trying to tell you is, what is this endpoint? This is an endpoint through which your worker role or web role is accessible, and you can specify any protocol and port number and all this stuff, please. All right, we will fill up this in the next demo, but please remember that endpoint is what. Next, local storage. I have nothing right now, but I can create a local storage and tell, hey, this is much size of storage I want. Nothing to do now. Certificates is SSL certificates, and if you are looking for any caching, you can also specify the caching, please. So the caching is also a little deep dive discussion actually, but right now you can see most important for us is configuration, then settings, okay, and then endpoints. Now all of you should know how do we specify the settings, number one, and you should also know how you can switch the emulator to other options. All right, so hope all of you understood that how we create a cloud service with web role and worker roles. Okay, just a small recap of what we discussed: how to create a cloud service with web role, worker role, and we discussed more detailed what is worker role in how it is related to Windows service and how it is related to web role, and then we started web role, worker role in one project, and we have seen where we can specify the instances, how we can specify the count, all that. All right. So, and also we have learned what is express emulator, what is full emulator, under what circumstances we need full emulator, and we could also see in emulator how our number of instances got created, and we have also seen how we can increase the size of our virtual machines. All these are given locally. Locally you can do all this. Once you test run this perfectly, just right click and publish or package it as I showed you earlier. You are done. You are ready to go and deploy this on cloud. Now that's the beauty of cloud services. Cloud services, I told you, they were first offerings of Azure. Okay, so try to do this. There is no big deal of any code that you have done in this, but except understanding what cloud services are and the project files, please. Once you get that, then we can just switch on to one good example of how to create one worker role and communicate with web role. Okay, so just do that, and we will try to communicate in one of the next series, what we will do is, we will create a worker role where we will create some listener and then get data from user, push that from web role to worker role, ask worker role to process that, and then return the result, please. So that will be our next one, all of you. Okay, so thank you for that. In the next session we will see what we can do it. Okay.